We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Chesam and Aleph and Mesechet Yevamos. This is Yevamos Daf 108a. And the previous Amud, the Gemara was discussing the exact text of a Shtar Miyun, and the Gemara said that the text was initially a little bit longer, but then they said that Asi Lechlufe Begita, that people are going to come and they're going to get that text confused with the text of an actual get. Rashi over here says, Asi Lechlufe Begita Sheyechtevenu Sofer Bor Beget Gerish and Lagarish Boisha. Let's say you have a Sofer who doesn't really know the halachas, he's going to think this is the proper text for a regular Gerisha. And so therefore, because of that, Takinu Hachi, so therefore they instituted as follows, that the text of the Shtar Miyun should be, Biyom Ploni, on this particular day, Miana Plonis Bas Ploni Bian Pana. So-and-so, again, the minor girl who we are talking about, she refused her marriage in front of us. And the Gemara continues, Tanu Rabbanon, the rabbis taught, Eizehu miyun, what is considered to be a refusal. Amra, let's say the girl says, Efshi beploni bali, I don't want so-and-so my husband, or Efshi bekidushin shekidshuni ami v'achi, or I don't want the kiddushin that my mother and my brother, they gave me away. Yeser al kein amar Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yehuda goes even farther than that. He says, Afilu yosheves ba'pirion, even if she's sitting in the bridal chair, v'holeches mi beis avia lebeis bal, and she's going from the house of her father to the house of her husband, v'amra, and she says, Efshi beploni bali, I don't want so-and-so to be my husband, zehu miyun, that's considered a refusal. Yeser al kein amar Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda goes even further. Afilu hayu orchen mesubin bebeis bal, even if there are guests that are seated in the house of her husband, v'hi omedes umashka aleim, and she's standing and she's pouring them drinks, v'amra lahem, and she says to them, Efshi beploni bali, I don't want so-and-so to be my husband, harehu miyun, that is considered a refusal. Yeser al kein, even further than that, Amar Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda says, Afilu shigra balo etzel chenvani, lahavi lo chayfetz mishalo, even let's say her husband sent her to the storekeeper to bring him something of his, v'amra, and she says, Efshi beploni bali, I don't want so-and-so my husband, ein lech miyun gadol mizeh, there is no refusal greater than this. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Rabbi Chanina ben Antigna somer kol tinokas v'chulu. Rabbi Chanina ben Antigna said, if you have a girl who is so young that she's not even able to watch over the item that's given to her for the kiddushin, so in such a situation you don't even need miyun, it's not considered a marriage at all. And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Halacha Rabbi Chanina ben Antignas. This is the halacha. The halacha is like Rabbi Chanina ben Antignas. And the Gemara continues, Tana was taught, Ketana shalom miano. Let's say you have a ketana, a girl who is a minor, and she didn't refuse. V'yamda v'nisas, but then she gets up and she gets married, she marries someone else. Mishum Rav Yehuda ben Beseira Amru. So in the name of Rav Yehuda ben Beseira, they say, Nisueha, that new marriage, hein miyonah, that's considered the refusal. And the Gemara continues, Iboilu, they asked the following question, Niskad Shama, what if she wouldn't get married to someone else, but she would be betrothed? She would accept a kiddushin from someone else. Would that also be considered a refusal? And the Gemara says, Tashma, come and hear the following proof. Ketana Shalom Miyano, again, let's say you have a ketana that did not do the refusal, V'yamda v'niskacha, but she gets up and she has a kiddushin, Mishum Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira Amru, so in the name of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, they said, Kiddusheha hein miyuneha, the kiddushin is considered the refusal. And the Gemara continues, Iboilu, they had the following question, Pligi Rabbanan oled Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira olo, do the Rabbanan argue on this sheet of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira or not? Imtim Salomar Pligi, if you're going to say that they do argue, Bekidushin o afilu b'nisuin, do they argue by Kiddushin, or do they even argue by Nisuin? Even a marriage, they're going to say, does not necessarily constitute a refusal. V'imtim Salomar Pligi afilu b'nisuin, now if you're going to say that they argue even in a situation where she gets married after, halacha kamoso o ein halacha kamoso, is the halacha like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, or is the halacha not like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira? V'imtim Salomar halacha kamoso, and if you say that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, b'nisuin, is the halacha like him only by marriage, there it's considered a refusal, or afilu b'kiddushin, or is that true? Is the halacha even like him, even where she accepts a kiddushin? And the Gemara continues, Tashma, come and hear the following proof. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Halacha Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. The halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. And so the Gemara notes, Halacha mechlal de pligi. If you say the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira, that implies that there is in fact an argument, and therefore it implies that the Rabbanan do argue on Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. And the Gemara continues, Vakati tiboilach, but still we can ask the following question. To have a nesiva meikara, o dilma mikdasha, what's the case over here where we're saying that it's considered a refusal? Is it a situation where she was married to this first husband in the first place? Or are we talking where there was only a kiddushin with the first husband? Maybe only in a situation where there was just a kiddushin, so then the subsequent marriage would be considered a refusal. But maybe if she was really married to the first husband, maybe that subsequent marriage would not be considered a refusal. And the Gemara continues, Tashma, coming here, the following proof, the Kal say Avdan, because the daughter-in-laws of Avdan, Imrod, so they rebelled against their husbands. So Shoda Rebbe Zugi de Rabbanan Lemivdikinu. So Rebbe sent a pair of the Rabbanan in order to check what was going on, to see if they could solve the problem. Amri Lahu, they said to them, Nishei Chazu Guvraich Utakasi, they say, women, look, your husbands are coming. Amri Lahu, so then they said back, they responded, Nahave Gavraich Udidchu, let them be your husbands. In other words, as if to say, we're not interested in them. And Amar Rebbe, and so Rebbe said, when he heard this, he said, Ein loch miyun gadol mizeh. There's no greater refusal than this. In other words, that statement alone is considered a miyun, it's considered a refusal. And so the Gemara says, my lav is it not? To have an asiva that they were married, so you see that it's considered a refusal, even in a situation where they were married to these men. And the Gemara says it's not necessarily a proof. Lo, no, to have a mikdasha kiddushay. Maybe the case was there was just a kiddushin over here. There wasn't really a marriage. Halacha, but the Gemara says the halacha is Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. The halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. Ve'afilu b'nisuin dekama. And it's true, even if she was married to that first husband, still it's going to be considered a refusal of that marriage. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Rabbi Eliezer Omer v'chulu. Rabbi Eliezer says that if a girl that's a minor gets married, it's not considered to be a marriage at all. She's considered to be like an unmarried woman. And the Gemara says, Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Chozrani al kol tzidei chachamim. I went through all the opinions of the various chachamim. V'lo matzasi adam shehishve midosa bekatana Rabbi Eliezer. I didn't find anybody who was so consistent in terms of this girl who was a minor like Rabbi Eliezer. Shasar Rabbi Eliezer k'metayela sima b'chatzar, because Rabbi Eliezer considers this girl just like a girl who's strolling with him, with her husband in the chatzar. V'yomedes mecheko, then she can just get up from his bosom. V'toveles v'ocheles b'truma l'erev. She can immerse, and she's even allowed to eat truma that evening, meaning if she's a bas kohen, that marriage is considered nothing, and she can leave him, she can immerse in order to purify herself, and then she can have truma that evening as if she was completely an unmarried woman. And the Gemara continues, Tanya, we learned in a Brayso, Rabbi Eliezer, Omer, Rabbi Eliezer says, Ein ma'isa katana klum. When a katana does something like getting married, it's not considered like anything. Ve'ein balo zakai, and the husband doesn't have any merit. Lo b'mitziyasav, lo b'maisiyada, he doesn't get anything she finds, he doesn't get anything she produces. Ve'lo b'hafaras nadareh, he's not able to annul her vows. Ve'ein o yorsh, he can't inherit her. Ve'ein metame lo, he's not allowed to become tamei to her. Let's say he's a kohen, she's not considered his wife. Klalo shel davar eino ki ishto l'chol davar. The general rule is she's not considered his wife at all. The only thing is we do require a formal miyun, an actual refusal, in order for her to marry somebody else. Rabbi Yoshua says, no, the opposite. Her husband does merit to get that which she finds, that which she produces. He's able to annul her vows. He does inherit her. He is allowed to be metame to her. Klalo shel davar, the general rule is, harehi keishto, l'chol davar, she's considered like his full wife. Ela sheyotze b'miyan, the only difference is, by a regular wife, you have to have a get, you have to have a regular divorce document. Here she can go out just with miyun, just with refusal. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rebbe says, Nir and Divrei Rabbi Eliezer mi Divrei Rabbi Yoshua. What Rabbi Eliezer says makes more sense than that which Rabbi Yoshua says. Rabbi Eliezer hishva midosa b'katana, because Rabbi Eliezer, he has a consistent opinion when it comes to this katana. For Rabbi Yoshua chilek, but Rabbi Yoshua, he makes certain divisions. The Gemara says, my chilek, what do you mean he makes divisions? What are the divisions of Rabbi Yoshua? He says she's considered a full wife. The Gemara says, no, there is a division, because if she really is a full wife, like Rabbi Yoshua says, tiboy get, so she should require regular get. Why is it enough to have miyun? But the Gemara says, Rabbi Eliezer nami, according to Rabbi Eliezer also, it's not totally consistent. Ilavish tohi, if she's not considered his wife, so miyun nami, lo tiboy, so she should not even require miyun. Why is Rabbi Eliezer saying that a formal miyun is required if she's not really his wife? And so to that, the Gemara says, Ela b'chti tepuk, what do you think? She's going to go out with nothing. She can't just leave the marriage doing absolutely nothing, even if she's not really considered a married woman. There has to be some kind of ceremony, and therefore, according to Rabbi Eliezer, a miyun is going to be required. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov said, if you have a situation where the akava is min ha'ish, meaning because of the husband she's being held back, then that's considered a marriage by a situation of a girl that's a minor. But if there's an akava, if she's being held back she'ena min ha'ish, but it's not because of the husband, so then we say it's not considered to be a marriage. And the Gemara now explains what this means. Hechi dami akava shehi min ha'ish, va'akava she'ena min ha'ish. What does it mean that you have an akava from the husband and you have an akava that is not from the husband. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Rav Yehuda says in the name of Shmuel, Tavua li nase. Let's say there are other people that are trying to marry her. She's a girl that's a minor, she's married to somebody, and now other people are approaching her with possible potential shidduchim. V'yamra, and if she says, Machmas ploni bali, so she says, the reason why I can't marry you is because I'm already married to so-and-so, my husband. So zui akava shimena ish. That's what the Mishnah means by an akava from the man, meaning she is treating herself as a married woman, and then she's considered to be married. However, if she says machmas b'nei adam she'ena mehuganinli, she says the reason why I don't want to marry these potential shidduchim is because these people are not pleasing to me. So zui akava she'ena minoish. There she's holding back, not because she considers herself married. On the contrary, she does not consider herself a married woman. She's ready to get married to others, but she's just saying that these people, they're not pleasing to her as husbands, and therefore in that case it's an akava she'ena minoish, and she would not be considered a married woman. And the Gemara now offers another explanation. Abaya Baravin, Rav Chanina Baravin, Da Amri Tarvayu. Abaya Baravin and Rav Chanina Baravin, they both say the following explanation in Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Nosan lo get, if he gives her a get, meaning she doesn't refuse the marriage, he is giving her a get in order to get out of the marriage. So zui akava shimeno ish, that is an akava that comes from the man's side. In other words, he was really holding on to her. We're considering as if they were really a married couple. That's why he was giving her a get. And therefore you follow the rules of a regular marriage. He is now forbidden to her relatives, and she is forbidden to his relatives. And furthermore, she's going to be disqualified from the kuna. She's going to be considered like a regular divorced woman. However, miyanabo, she refuses the marriage, meaning she does miyun, so zui akava she'ena minoish, that is an akava that's not from the man's side. In other words, means to say, she was not considering herself, and they were not considering themselves to be a regular married couple. That's why she was doing miyun, she was refusing the marriage, and therefore they're not considered like a married couple. V'hu mutar b'krovoseh, he therefore is mutar and her relatives. V'hi mutaris b'krovav, and she's mutar to his relatives. V'lo pasla min kahuna, and she's not going to be disqualified from the kahuna in this case, because she did not receive a gerisha, she didn't receive a regular divorce, she just did miyun. Now the Gemara says, according to this second explanation of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, that's already been taught. Hakatani l'kaman, we already learned later on in the Mishnah. The next Mishnah says, Hamima'enez bi'ish hu mutar b'krovoseh v'hi mutaris b'krovav. If you have a case of miyun, so then he's allowed with her relatives, she's allowed with his relatives. V'lo pasla min hakuna, and she's not disqualified from the kuna. And nasan lo get, but if he gives her a get, so then hu asur b'krovoseh, he's forbidden to her relatives. V'hi asur b'krovav, and she's forbidden to his relatives. So how could it be that the end of the previous Mishnah and the beginning of this coming up Mishnah are saying the exact same things? And again, the Mishnah also goes on to say, if he gives her a get, that's considered a regular divorce, and that disqualifies her from the kuna. So again, it seems to be repeating in the next Mishnah the same thing we just said, according to this second explanation of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, and to that the Gemara says, Prushe kamefarish. The next Mishnah is simply explaining the end of the previous Mishnah. So this Mishnah that is coming up is just explaining what it means at the end of the last Mishnah when we talk about akava shehi min ha'ish and akava she'ena min ha'ish. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Hamima'enes be'ish. Let's say you have a girl, again, this is what we just quoted before, a girl who does miyun, she refuses the husband, so hu mutar b'krovoseh v'hi mutaris b'krovav. Again, he's mutar to her relatives, she's mutar to his relatives. That's not considered a regular marriage situation at all. V'lo pasla min hakuna, she's not disqualified from the kuna, because she's not considered a divorced woman. Nasan lo get, but in contrast, let's say he gives her a get, so then it was as if they were considering themselves to be married, so hu asur b'krovoseh, he's going to be forbidden to her relatives. Via Sura Bikrovav, she is forbidden to his relatives. Upasla minakuna, and she will be disqualified from the kuna because she received the get. Nasan laget vechzira. Let's say you have a case where he gave her a get, then he remarried her, and then miyanobo, and then she refused the marriage. So the miyan was last. V'nisis la'acher v'nisamalo niskarsha. Then she marries someone else, and she becomes widowed or she becomes divorced. So then muteris lachzer lo. So then she's mutter to return to her previous husband, because normally a woman who is divorced, who marries someone else, cannot go back to her previous husband. But here, since the last thing she did with her first husband was miyan, was a refusal, so that's not considered a normal situation of a divorced woman who married someone else, and she can go back to her original husband. However, miyanabo, let's say you have the opposite. Let's say first she does the miyan, vechzira, and then he remarries her, and nasan la get, then he gives her a get, so then we follow what happened last again, then we follow the get, and we say she's like a regular divorced woman, so therefore, v'nisis la'achar v'nisamalon niskarsha, if she then goes ahead and marries someone else, and she's widowed or divorced, so asura lachzer lo, so then it's going to be forbidden for her to return to him, just like any divorced woman who goes and marries someone else, she's not allowed to go ahead and marry her previous husband. And we'll continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Ches Amud Beis.